Okay, go ahead. You're jerking your head up to see where you're shooting even before you. So shoot and keep your eye on the target before you look.
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Appreciate y'all tuning in. Had a lot of talk on some forums here lately and Facebook groups, of course. You know, Facebook, everybody on it. Everybody's talking about WinMA versus 2MOA. What's acceptable, what's not. And there's a lot of misconceptions I've been seeing. And I haven't really said anything. And the reason being is there's a lot of people out there that is much more qualified to discuss this, whether they have a background in engineering, whether they have a background in mathematics, whether they are a high-speed operator, tier 1, low-speed, medium drag here. So I'm not really going to go into, you know, whether who's right and who's wrong. What I want to discuss is I want to give some background on MOA, which stands for minute of angle, and then I also want to discuss what it looks like in a practical sense, in a realistic picture and environment, and show people what it looks like out to the distance I shoot, which is 600 yards. Hope you stay tuned. Let's go ahead and do some background and establish a baseline so we're all on the same level, which is going to be the lowest level because that's where I'm at. MOA stands for minute of angle, which correlates to the minute of hand of a 360-degree clock face. Each minute refers to 1/60th of a degree, similar to the minutes of an hour. Now, if we think about this, minute of angle is an angular unit of measurement. MOA is, again, what I said, 1/60th of a degree. Now, when it spreads out from the bullet, or correction, from the barrel, an MOA will spread out roughly about 1 inch every 100 yards. The correct measurement would be 1.0472 inches. Now, as we spread out 100, 200 yards, it goes up from 1 inch 100 yards, 2 inches at 200 yards, 3 inches at 300 yards, so on, as you can see. Just like a cone, as you reloaders know, it continues to go out, just like a funnel. Now, we want to get deeper into that discussion that is beyond the scope of this video and a topic for another day, and probably above my level. What we're just going to stand here and discuss is just what MOA is, how it's used as an angular unit of measurement for shooting, and then what are we looking at in field conditions, which is the main thing. Now that we've discussed the background and we got in a baseline and we're all on the same page, now we're going to go ahead and move forward and discuss how do we use this as a baseline unit of measurement, especially when we want to use this as a metrics for our rifles to determine accuracy, precision, so on and so on. Now, everyone has a different way to do this. Whichever way works for you is going to be the best way. Some people years ago was debating between 3 rounds and 5 rounds to get a consistent group size. I know today we have people like 9-Hole Reviews. Great channel, by the way. Not technically a plug, but I just want to let you know it's one of my favorite channels. I think they're probably spot on when it comes to shooting and marksmanship. Anyways, 9-Hole Reviews, of course, uses 9 holes to get their metrics. And that works. Now, clearly, they have a different level than I'm at. They're here. I'm somewhere. See where I'm going at. Anyways, so from my metrics, 3 rounds works just for me. Now, how does that really work? When we're looking through a scope, you're looking at your target. You want to shoot 3 rounds. when you're shooting these 3 rounds, what happens is once your 3 rounds impact the target, you will triangulate. Obviously, 3 rounds triangulates, and that will get you your group size. Now, once you're doing this, what you're looking for is to measure that group size. Some people do edge to edge, some people do center to center. Again, whatever your metrics is that's what you're going to base it off of each time. When you do that, you will come up with a group size. Ideally, you want to have 1 MOA at 100 yards, which is 1 inch. Now, a lot of people can show this on pictures. They show it on small pictures where they zoom in on the target and you get an idea. But what we're going to do today, we're going to do something different. We're going to discuss this in a realistic environment. We're going to try and show, we're going to do this in a 1-to-1 scale. Regardless whichever rifle that you are using, 1 MOA is going to be consistent. It doesn't matter whatever rifle you use. Whether you use a AR, DMR style rifle, designated marksman's rifle, whether you choose to use a precision style type rifle, or whether you are a man of taste and you want to use a 70-year-old rifle, which, by the way, this rifle is sub MOA up to 600 yards. Minute of angle and group size does not change regardless what the platform is or whatever the caliber is. Now that we've established everything, we're still on our baseline, and now we've built on it. Definitions of MOA, how MOA is measured, and regardless whatever platform you're using, it's still a standardized unit of measurement across the board. Looking here to my side, I have a target. Using this as an example to get an idea of what we're looking at. This target was shot with this rifle. This is my SIG. Everybody knows I've talked about it a lot. This was shot at actually 75 yards. As you can see, there is 3 shot hole group right here. Now people say 75 yards, this doesn't matter. You know, you're going to get good groups. Well, again, we're using MOA as a unit of measurement to be able to get metrics and be able to decide if this is accurate and what's our group size, how precise is it, and what is ultimately the repeatability to be able to put hits on the same hole repeatedly. Measuring this is actually half an inch, 0.5 of an inch to be exact, from edge to edge. 75 yards, if we go by the MOA unit of measurement, or it will actually be 3/4 of an inch, 0.75 of an inch. So this is still sub MOA at 75 yards. By the way, at 50 yards, 0.5 of an inch, half an inch is 1 MOA. Just something I wanted to show and get an idea so you can get an understanding of what you're looking at. Okay, now that we have that and we're establishing some baselines, we now know 1 MOA is 1 inch at 100 yards, 2 inches at 200 yards, 3 inches at 300 yards. We have an idea of the shape of this body. 10 inches wide, 24 inches long. Now we have something to measure with. For guys with mil reticles, this is going to be basic kindergarten math. So for everybody else that does not use MOA, this is going to be kind of interesting, because now this is where you're going to see those mil reticles that basically have measurements in there, tape measures. This is where it's going to get really interesting. What does a 1 MOA look like at exactly 100 yards? This is going to be a 1-to-1 exact scale. I have here a Home Depot paint stick. A Home Depot paint stick actually happens to be exactly 1 inch wide from here to here. That's important because now I'm showing you and I'm giving you an exact unit of measurement that you can try and double check mine. Flipping this over, I have a dot. This is a sticker that I got from a pack of Targets, and this is just a 1 inch in diameter sticker. Moving as close as I can, hopefully it's not going to go blur out. This is 1 inch. Let's see what 1 inch looks like at 100 yards. That is exactly 1 MOA at 100 yards. A lot of people say that if gun doesn't shoot 1 MOA at 100 yards, it's not accurate. That's really interesting. Now remember, you want to do this on a 0 windy day when you're establishing your baseline. What does 2 MOA look like, by the way? I'm sorry, correction. What does it look like at 200 yards? Well, let's go out to 200 yards, and the target sizes have not changed. Group size is going to change. At 200 yards now we have, that cone has enlarged, and now we're going to be this. This is a 2 inch dot at 200 yards, but it is only 1 MOA at 200 yards. Okay, moving right along. What does 1 MOA look like at 300 yards? Again, this is a 3 inch dot, but at 300 yards, it is still 1 MOA. 3 inches at 300 yards equals 1 MOA. .400 yards. As you can see, the size increases. You want 3 rounds to impact in the exact same area. So long as it impacts a small enough area, which would be 4 inches, you are exactly 1 MOA. .500 yards. Now, 600 yards. This is exactly 1 MOA at 600 yards. Now, keep in mind that so long as 3 rounds impacts in the size of this orange circle, you're exactly 1 MOA. 6 inch diameter. 6 inch diameter circle. Again, some people will say that 1 MOA is just the baseline standard. Some people will say it needs to be smaller than that. Some people will say that half MOA needs to be there. And this is, again, what's your metrics is what's important for you. Now that we've established 1 MOA, let's look and see what 2 MOA looks like. Now, as I said before, this is 1 MOA at 100 yards. Understand you still have a huge amount of error. Even if you don't try and get a perfect 1 MOA, you still have a lot of real estate to work with. Some people say 1 MOA is fine. Some people say 1 MOA is what they want. Of course, I do. Some people say that 2 MOA in field conditions is an acceptable thing. What does 2 MOA look like in field conditions at 100 yards? Now we're at 2 MOA at 100 yards. Coincidentally, this is a 2 inch circle. Remember, 2 MOA at 100 yards is 2 inches. The size has not really expanded that much. You're only looking at about a 50% expansion rate. But you still have a lot of room for error. Okay. What does 2 MOA look like at, say, 200 yards? Well, 200 yards, currently, this would be a 1 MOA, but as I said, now we're going to look and see what 200 yards look like. That's a 2 MOA dot at 200 yards. Again, for the reality of the situation, 2 MOA is still an acceptable thing to have. We still have a lot of real estate. You still have a lot of room for error. Okay? If we go up to, say, 400 yards, Let's say we go to 400 yards and, well, no, let's say we go to 300 yards. I have a lot of sticks here. I gotta figure out which one. We'll go to 300 yards and I say, okay, 300 yards. What is my 1 MOA, or that's 1 MOA. 1 MOA. What does 2 MOA look at 300 yards? Now it's shrank down a lot. Your ability to have error is dropping quickly, by the way. Well, let's go ahead and skip out to 600 yards. You're going to shoot 600 yards, and you said 1.5 to 2 MOA at 100 yards was the acceptable degree of accuracy. Okay? Which, again, is a completely acceptable thing. Whatever your level of acceptance is, well, again, for you, not for me. So when you say, what is 1 MOA at 100 yards, but I'm shooting 1.5 to 2 MOA, well, that's not really going to try and be that much of a difference. But now let's look and see what happens when I'm going to take a target out at 600 yards. As I said before, this is 1 MOA at 600 yards, a 6-inch diameter circle. But now, we've already established at the beginning of this topic, 1.5 to 2 MOA is acceptable for some people. What does that look like in a realistic environment, in a true 1-to-1 scale? Doesn't really look that good. You have 3 rounds that's going to impact somewhere within this circle. That's the goal. Your goal is to impact somewhere, and as long as all 3 impact within a small enough area, it's still 2 MOA. Well, your margin for error has drastically decreased. As I said, that this is a 18-inch wide target. This is a 12-inch diameter circle. So you have, what's 12 from 18? You have what, 6? You have 3 inches on each side, that unit. You have 3 inches on each side for error. It's not a lot for error, by the way. If your baseline is 2 MOA, you have 3 inches for error at 600 yards with a 0 wind value. So in closing, let's wrap this up. We've established what MOA is. We've discussed how MOA can be measured, the metrics of MOA, and we've discussed 1 MOA versus 2 MOA out to 600 yards. Regardless, whichever one you choose to do, whether it be 1, 2 MOA, or 3 MOA, whatever your acceptable margin for error is. Remember, the ultimate goal of this is to be able to hit the target the first time and be able to do this on a repeatable basis. Whichever way you choose to do it, whether you use mil dots, whether you use MOA, whether you use 3 rounds to get your group size, 5 rounds, or 9. Whichever way works for you. Make sure that you can keep that as a standardized unit of measurement that you can use for your metrics, that you can base that off of. Hope y'all found this interesting. Hope y'all like what you've seen. And if you did, go ahead and share this for me. Leave a few comments. Let me know how I did. This one took a lot of thought to put all this together. And there was a lot of thought, meaning how am I going to arrange this? Getting all these little things set up and all this. So go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button right there. And of course, as always, I want to thank my biggest sponsor. Okay, hope to see y'all out in the range.